Yes, I do. You use mouth to do it. I'm always the
What can I I'm the Swedish culture attaché at the Embassy of Sweden, and I've been here in Belgrade now for 3 years, and I'm the first culture attaché at the Embassy of Sweden. We are just having a few attachés, actually 8 around the world: Washington, London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, Moscow, Beijing, and Belgrade. And you can ask yourself, why Belgrade? I mean, there is a lot of nice, interesting cities around the world, but the reason is actually, I'm an ethnologue by education. I've been studying journalism. I've been working with exhibitions as a curator and project manager at the Swedish traveling exhibitions, and also the Historian Museum in Stockholm. And I will tell you a little bit more about that. I will talk about these things: Swedish culture policy, value-based focus, tools and strategies, partners, target groups in Serbia and Sweden, and regional projects. And I will do that based on the culture policy in Sweden, because we have instructions. I'm employed by the Ministry of Culture, that's my boss, the minister, but also I have to relate, or I'm relating to the Foreign Affairs. So I have 2 bosses actually. But first, I would like to introduce myself. You can't see. It's a beautiful building in, that doesn't matter, that's too little air in here. It's a very important building for me in the small town where I was born and grown up. It's called Arboga, and it's 14,000 inhabitants, so it's a very small village actually. Beautiful in the summertime especially, but what they had in the 70s, they were building a new library, and this library was my castle. I spent almost all my time there because it was such a nice place for kids to be. I was a child at that time, but it was also a way for me to get away from this small city. So since I could start to read, I was always spending my time there. That was a very important part of it. And they start to sound, because they're moving under you, and it's horrible. And in this context, it means really something. So if you're at the Holocaust Museum in Berlin, you have to check this. It's very hard to find this installation, but this is something I'm very interested in. This is another artist. I don't know if you know about him, Robert Wilson, an American. And he got the job, you can't see it really, but he got a job from Maryland Historical Society in the States, a very conservative, a very traditional museum with a lot of stories from the great times in America. And what he did, he was putting in the back, you can see the silhouette of a young boy, a colored boy. And what he did, he was actually using the same portraits, but he was putting the spotlights on the ones that were hidden, the slaves, because this was actually in slavery time. He also did this, putting different objects together. This was all of it in the collection, but he was putting things together, and then suddenly you had a new context. Another very interesting artist is Olafur Eliasson. This is in Tate Modern in London. This was his installation, and it was fantastic because you can't see this either, but on the floor under this sun, people are just crowded. And I was spending 4 hours there, just laying in the sun in the middle of the winter, and together with a lot of people. And people came back and they visited this over and over again. It was really a place for gathering people. She's also working in a way that I like. I'm an ethnologue, and she's using the ethnological methods when she's creating her stories or her piece. She's interviewing people, she is collecting memories, objects, making different kind of documentation, and she's very interested in these things, as you know. She went with us to a trip to Sweden when we were visiting different kind of museums dealing with this issue, how you collect the contemporary society. It was a Children's Culture Center here in Belgrade in 2004. Me and Slavica was working very much with that exhibition. And it was important because we actually had the possibility to gather politicians and people working with children's rights issues and to write a common strategy how to implement the Children Ombudsman in the Serbian parliament. And it was very successful. We worked with Masha Vramovic, if you know her, in this project. She was very young at that time. But this was actually the time when I got to know Belgrade. I had never been here. I had no idea what Serbia was. And when I came here, I met Snezana Anđelković, that was the director of the Children's Culture Center, and she introduced me to a lot of people here in Serbia. And she forced me to have a schedule like this, different artists, galleries, theaters, and she had a mission. And because she did that, I met a lot of people, of course, and then I decided I want to work in Belgrade one day. And 6 years later, this ad came out in the paper that they were searching for a culture attaché in Belgrade, and I applied and I got the job. So that is really Belgrade's fault I'm here. This is the objective of the Ministry of Culture. It's not long, I mean, this is the visions. Culture is to be a dynamic challenge, an independent force based on freedom of expression. Everyone needs to have the opportunity to participate in cultural life. Creativity, diversity, and artistic qualities are to be integrated part of society development. Freedom of expression, opportunities, and children's rights. So what we have, me and Slavica, when we have interpreted this, we are working with value-based activities. And that means, for example, freedom of expression, or child rights, or accessibility. That is very, very important for us. What we also, how we have interpreted this, we are actually having right. It doesn't matter if we are young or if we're older, we are having the right to learn. Lifelong learning. And very much of what we do is based on passion. Passion and lust is a very important part of our work. Perhaps a little bit special interpretation of this boring, dry policy, but that's our. So just now I will talk about some projects we have done and that we are going to do and we are doing right now. But just some examples so you get the idea. For example, we were the land in focus at Belgrade Book Fair in 2010. I don't know if any one of you were there. What we did was actually that we based all our activities on mainly two values. Freedom of expression, press ethics, and children's rights. And then we invited the writers. I mean, normally you do the opposite, but we decided this is the way we want to do it. And we invited, we had 20 writers. Half of them were writers and illustrators for children's literature. And the other half were actually very much involved in freedom of expression, press ethic, media issues in Sweden. mainly, and then we also had some people like Helene that really is she died recently. A person that are talking about the how traumas in a family can be something that goes on generation after generation. So that was, and it was very. We also cooperated with Saski Venats and Study Grad and the Ministry of Education and the Museum of Science and Technology and 20 children to create the pedagogical material for this exhibition we had. And it is a pedagogical program that is based on the Serbian curriculum. And it is based on the connection between schools and cultural institutions or museums. In Sweden we have something called Creative School. That's actually the most of the money at the Ministry of Culture go to this project. It is to connect schools and museums and cultural institutions and theaters, everything that has to do with culture. And so I will give this to Milena. This is about how you can actually create a method to implement a pedagogical program at the cultural institution. It's very informative, and also the connection with history, math, social science, and so on. This is interesting. It should be in the PDF at the Museum of Science Technology's website, or otherwise you get in contact with us and we'll give you this to you.
I think we have it's a PDF on our website as well.
Okay, perfect.
It's still there.
Yeah. And we actually had, in 3 months last year, we had 1,000 kids in our workshops. And the workshop was to think out of the box. How do you actually create an idea together with your friends? And how do you communicate your ideas? And that involves a lot about critical thinking. And to question your teachers, your parents, your surroundings. It was really fun. We are continuing with this project and implementing it in Kragujevac together with the ministry there this year. Yeah, this is it. UN Convention, Serbian curriculum, promote cooperation, culture and school. And we were also, this program was also one of 10 programs that the Ministry of Education was acknowledging on their website. So we were very proud, actually. Fantastic. This year we are continuing with the, I don't know, do you know Budi? It's a children's festival in Pančevo. It starts the 15th of May next week.
Yeah, it's an artistic biennale.
Yeah. So we are taking part there. The ambassador will be there and open the whole event, and it's with literature and drama, and so we are supporting that in many ways. We will take part in Mixer. I will talk a little bit more about that and invite you to join us if you feel for it. To continue with this Creative Society project, we are dealing with fashion, dealing with design, and Mixer is a good place for us to be. We also have created a group called ETC, etc. We have picked very different people, young people in Serbia, except you, darling.
I don't fit in.
You don't fit in that profile, but you know, these young people in Slavica.
Some have privileges always.
Yeah.
Lifelong learning.
Yes. And it is a group that we have picked because we need to have, the embassy need to have contact with the society around us, because we are not an island somewhere, we are actually in the society. And Marko Radenkovic is there, Marshal Ramovic, we have people from Bosch, we have people from the Faculty of Law, we are having Vishna,
Kisic.
Yeah, and we have also
Dragana
Jevtic, Olga, Dragana Tomic, yeah, a lot of people. And because what this group decided they wanted to do, they wanted to work with mentorship. Because when they were talking with me, because in some situation I said, of course I'm having a mentor. And they said, why are you having a mentor? You're a cultural attaché. And I said, of course, I always need to learn and have support. And then this group decided they want to work with mentorship, learn more about it, and then not just, the student-professor mentorship, but something else. And so you had a 3 days workshop last weekend where we invited Lotta Lekvall, that was here at your conference last year. She held a workshop with this group to define their skills and their future plans the next 3 to 5 years, and to learn more about mentorship. Active learning, for example, is a part of that. Now this group are leaving for Sweden on Sunday to visit different organizations in Sweden that are working with mentorship. And then in the autumn, this group will make a conference about this issue. And then you're all invited. We're also at the Belgrade Design Week. I'm working with this artist and this ethnologue, my colleagues. You're very welcome. I can give you the telephone number. Flexible position, so they have decided that 1 or 2 of the cultural attachés should be flexible. So this could move to Cairo, or New Delhi, or Rio de Janeiro, somewhere
in the region, or?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But what we are doing very, very intense this year is to try to connect as many people as possible between Serbia and Sweden. So a lot of projects will actually start and go on without us, perhaps with some support in the future, but we really need to just make these connections right now. So that is what we are